Assessing linguistic diversity in deaf criminal suspects. What I'll be discussing today is about the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and how law enforcement nationwide are failing to provide communication to deaf and hard of hearing, HOH. Suspects in being read their Miranda rights. With that being said, it is the law enforcement's responsibility to have reasonable accommodations, for example, a sign language interpreter, so the suspect understands clearly on what's going on, and not being left in the dark and knowing nothing. It's very important to have an interpreter because A, not even a professional interpreter can make the suspect understand, and B, if the interpreter isn't able to do this, then how is the officer supposed to? This is not saying all is true, because some could put on a performance, but not all deaf and hard of hearing have a knowledgeable educational background. While discussing this, we will learn that there is linguistic diversity, A, American Sign Language known as ASL, and there is B, manually coded English known as Pigeon Sign English, called PSE. An educated deaf suspect will often inform their interpreter what they prefer to use, ASL or PSE. When this happens, usually most often, the job is successful and all three parties come to an understanding. Minimal language skills, often known as MLS, are deaf and hard of hearing suspects that are not proficient in any language. We usually label them as undeserved, highly visual, deaf plus, and low functioning, and linguistically incompetent. Many interpreters that run into a suspect of MLS deal with code switching on common signs, unfamiliar dialects, and individualized gestures. This switching of communication can be challenging for both the interpreter and the officer to understand, which means mistakes often happen with MLS suspects. This is why most interpreters that do this type of job have to pass the Texas Board of Evaluation of Interpreters, known as the BEI, a level of 5 or 6. There is roughly 54.3% of officers and interpreters who have stated they work with MLS frequently. For example, let's be the police officer and ask a simple question that you and me would understand clear as day. For instance, a police officer: if you saw the theft occur, why didn't you report it? This question is syntactically difficult and hard to understand, and for the most part we take advantage of this. I have another example, and this is the police officer. When he picked up the TV, where did he? And the deaf suspect says, TV bad, husband wastes time, watch TV all day. It is estimated that 56.5% with MLS have characteristics of echolalia. This is why this discussion is important to know about. That is why it's important to make sure whatever job the interpreter takes, whether it be criminal or whatever you need, to make sure you are clear and make sure the client also is clear on what's going on. And if they don't, it's your job to keep trying until that light turns on. Otherwise, they will all agree to anything with a nodding response.